Donald Trump's grandfather ran Canadian brothel during Gold Rush. Canadians amused by the Donald Trump might be surprised to learn the role their own country played in shaping his story. Grandpa Trump was a pimp. Meet Friedrich Trump. Trump's grandfather started the family fortune in an adventure that involved the Klondike Gold Rush, the Mounties, prostitution and twists of fate that pushed him to New York City. He'd left Europe in 1885 at age 16, a barber's apprentice whose father died young.
Friedrich Trump had been in North America a few years when he set out for the Yukon. It allowed him to get together the nest egg he'd come to the United States with. Whether he could have accumulated that much money somewhere else, in that short a period of time, as a young man with no connections, and initially not even English, is certainly unlikely.
Trump wanted a life outside the barber shop. Far from the family-owned vineyards his ancestors had been working since they'd settled in Germany's Karlstadt region in the 1600s, carrying the soon-altered surname Drumpf. Within 5 years he'd anglicized his name to Frederick. Moved to the young timber town of Seattle, and amassed enough cash to buy tables and chairs for a restaurant. His next big move was heralded by the front page of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer of July 17, 1897, and its exclamatory headline, "Gold, gold, gold." It described a resplendent scene at the port involving mountains of yellow metal and men returning from the new El Dorado with fortunes as high as $100,000.
Trump sold everything and headed north. The move to Canada spared him financial disaster. He not only sold off 2 Seattle eateries, but also land in nearby Monte Cristo, Washington. Right before floods and avalanches destroyed the nearby railroad and development plans for the town were scrapped.
The worst was a notorious mountain pass. The U.S. National Park Service estimates 3,000 animals died on the White Pass, with many bones still visible today in its so-called Dead Horse Gulch.
Travelers had no choice but to walk over the remains. As the months went by, the walls of the pass were stained dark red from the blood.
Trump smelled opportunity. He opened a canteen along the route, where weary travelers likely stopped for a bite of Arctic roadkill. This established a pattern for Trump's Canadian business model. It's summed up in one chapter title, Ardan, Mining the Miners, Night.
Unlike other gold-crazed migrants, Trump realized that the best way to get rich was to lay down his pick and shovel and pick up his accounting ledger.
Liquor and sex. In his 3 years in Canada, Trump opened the Arctic restaurant and hotel in 2 locations with a partner, first on Bennett Lake in northern BC, and then moving it to Whitehorse, Yukon. Their 2-story wood-framed establishment gained a reputation as the finest eatery in the area, offering salmon, duck, caribou, and oysters. It offered more than food. The bulk of the cash flow came from the sale of liquor and sex, mentioning private suites for ladies and scales in the rooms, so patrons could weigh gold if they preferred to pay for services that way. Grandpa Trump was a pimp. He had made money, perhaps even more unusual in the Yukon. He had also kept it, and departed with a substantial nest egg.
For single men, the Arctic has the best restaurant. But I would not advise respectable women to go there to sleep, as they are liable to hear that, which would be repugnant to their feelings, and uttered too by the depraved of their own sex. The Mounties initially tolerated the rowdiness. There were exceptions. People faced forced labor or banishment from town if they cheated at cards, made a public ruckus, or partied on the Lord's Day.
Saloons and dance halls, theaters and business houses were shut tight 1 minute before midnight on Saturday, Klondike fever.
2 minutes before 12, the lookout at the faro table would take his watch from his pocket and call out, "The last turn, boys."
Trump acted as cook, bouncer, waiter. I wouldn't call him a pimp. Backroom ribaldry was part of the restaurant package in those towns, and it's not clear how the arrangement worked. As somebody trying to attract business to his restaurant, of course he would have liquor. Some say personalities jump a generation. That would make sense. Donald is like his pawpaw. Trump vodka, Trump water, Trump lone girls from Mar-a-Lago to Epstein. By early 1901, trouble was brewing. The Mounties announced plans to banish prostitution and curb gambling and liquor. Trump quarreled with his partner. Gold strikes were getting scarcer. When the boom was over, Frederick Trump realized he had made money, perhaps even more unusual in the Yukon. He had also kept it and departed with a substantial nest egg. He returned to Germany with the $582,000 in today's currency, and despite living in a German neighborhood, Elizabeth was homesick. The family returned to Karlstadt in 1904, selling their assets in America. As the Bavarian authorities suspected he had left Germany to avoid conscripted service in the Imperial Army, Frederick could not remain in Germany, so the family returned to the United States in 1905. You see, that apple don't fall far from the tree, so he was deported from his own country. He boarded a ship for New York, his wife pregnant with Donald's dad.
The elder Trump died of pneumonia in 1918, leaving behind some real estate. His son built the empire, his grandson the global brand.
Ironically, Trump is now running a platform of mass deportation, but Donald and Grandpa share some traits: an entrepreneurial spirit and formative youthful adventures in Canada. Donald met his first wife, Ivana, at the Montreal Olympics.
Dot.